So I'm coming to you from my writing studio in Mars Hill, North Carolina, which is up in the mountains, up in the Appalachian Mountains here in Western North Carolina. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon here, so it's later in the day. And we're having kind of a nice, warm, windy day here. We've got a cold front coming in. But when I got the idea for the book that would eventually become Stay, I wasn't living here in North Carolina. We moved here almost 4 years ago from near Salt Lake City, Utah. We lived in Park City, which is close to there. And at that time, I was volunteering for an organization that helped people who were experiencing homelessness and their pets who lived in a large city park. And what a lot of people don't understand, and after reading Stay, you do now, but what a lot of people don't understand is that, like 95% of homeless shelters out there don't allow animals. And so people who are experiencing homelessness who have pets have to choose between either going into a shelter where it's warm and safe and they have a bed to sleep on, but giving up their very best friend in the world, or keeping that friend, which happens to be a dog or in some cases a cat, but living in a city park or under an overpass. And so what we would do is every Saturday we would meet at this park, and we would load up wagons with people food and dog food and cat food, collars, leashes, blankets, hats, gloves, because it got really cold there. And we would go around and we would give people what they need. And so over the couple of years I volunteered with them, I really came to understand the close bond that existed between, or exists between, people who are experiencing homelessness and their pets. At that same time, I worked for the Salt Lake County Library System, and the library that I worked for, we started doing outreach at a family shelter, and we would go into the shelter and do story times and offer homework help. And again, it was just such an enlightening experience. I had no idea there were so many families who were experiencing homelessness and all the different reasons why that could happen. So it was kind of those two things that came together that inspired me to write this book that explores this whole concept of what we mean by home and what we mean by homelessness. So that in a nutshell is what inspired the book Stay. And so I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you ask me whatever questions you might have.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate that introduction. And the chat should be open right now, so it'll only go to the hosts and the co-hosts, teachers at Flex Online School. So if a question, you are most comfortable typing it instead of asking it out loud, it should come directly to one of us teachers. And I'm Kristen Bailey. I'm the library instructional technology teacher and teach middle school as well and high school at this school, which is so fun and exciting. And I'm going to just go ahead and start calling on hands because there are 31 questions, 32 so far. So let me go ahead. I know, so exciting. So Angel, why don't you go ahead and go first? Oh, hang on. So sorry. We seem to be running into. Okay, go for it, Angel.
How many books have you written?
So how many books have I written? Well, I've written lots of books, but not all of them have been published. My 7th book is coming out in early 2024, so in a little less than 2 years. But I have probably written easily 15 or 16 books, and not all of them have ended up on a library shelf or in a bookstore.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons that that can happen, and it happens to all authors. So you just kind of put that book away and get started on another project and hope that maybe someday that book will find a home. But yeah,
Wow.
I've written a lot of books.
I have something.
And when you are done answering your question, please put yourself back on mute. All right, Kellen.
What?
Do you have a question, Kellen?
No.
Okay, then we'll move on. And unfortunately, this one does not have a name. It says FOS Summer School.
Me?
Yes, I believe so.
I know you have written some books about animals, but why did you do that?
Oh, so why do I write so many books about animals? Well, you know, when I was growing up, dogs were my best friends. And I loved all animals. My favorite animal in the zoo were giraffes, but dogs were always my best friends. I was a really, really shy and timid child. And dogs are still very much my best friends. So that's why I like to write about them. I always say dogs are the best people I know. And I just find it so fascinating to write not only about them, but to try and get into their skin and see things through their eyes. So it's a lot of fun for me to do that. So that's why I write about animals a lot.
Thank you. Ivy?
Your license. So your favorite animal was giraffes, and your dogs are your favorite.
Yeah, so my favorite animals, wild animals in a zoo, are giraffes. I just love giraffes. I've always loved giraffes since I was little. But my favorite pet type animal would be a dog. And I've got two dogs. I've got a dog that's in here with me right now. His name is Barney, and he's about 6 or 7 years old. He's a rescue, so we don't know for sure. And then I have a 1-year-old puppy named Piper. And yes, I named her for Piper in the book. She's a Scottish Collie. And I can't let her come in here with me or she would just drive me crazy. So she's outside the door driving me crazy right now. But so I have two dogs right now. Yeah. And a very patient husband.
You should have named one of your dogs Baby, because the dog in the story is called Baby.
I know. Well, listen, let me tell you, both of them all the time, every day, multiple times a day, I call them Baby. That's my baby Barney, or my baby Piper, or my baby puppy. And so, yeah, I'm always calling them Baby.
Thank you. Elba. Elba, do you have a question?
So yeah, I remember that I read that story but I noticed that the new kid at the school did not like the name of the dog yeah.
Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what your question is.
And also I have new stuffies.
Okay, but this is for questions only, please. These are questions for our author visit today, please. So I'm going to move on to the next question, and I'm going to ask one that appeared in the chat. So you can also go ahead and you can put your question in the chat. And so from Vivan in 3rd grade, Have you ever had writer's block? And if so, how do you overcome that challenge as a writer?
Yeah, so writer's block is something that writers talk about a lot. And what it means is you're stuck and you just cannot figure out what to do next or where to go with your story. I've had that happen a lot. Uh, I I think a lot of times what happens with writer's block is it's a case of people trying to make things too perfect in that first draft. So when I hit that spot, I tell myself I just have to sit down and I can write things that are really, really not perfect. I can write things that are pretty crappy, but I give myself permission to do that. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just have to write because you know what? There's a delete button on my computer and I can go back and delete it later. But I can't just say to myself, oh, poor me, I have writer's block. I can't write today. I just don't ever allow myself to do that because it's hard enough for me to sit down and write. I would rather be out in the woods. But when I do sit down to write, which is pretty much every day, I am pretty disciplined. And so even if I don't know what's going to happen next, I just sort of feel my way along and try to get the words in.
Thank you. Nishant?
Do you still write books?
Yes. Do I still write books? Yeah. As a matter of fact, before I got on this meeting with you guys, I finished a first draft of a new book, and what I'm doing is going back and rewriting it. What a lot of people don't realize is every book that you hold in your hands, whether it's my book or a Harry Potter book or a graphic novel, that book has been rewritten many times before it ever gets to you. So that's what I'm doing with this new book now.
I
I
have a question.
What's the
hang on.
plot of
Wait, please stop interrupting. There are 54 people with hands up. So I need you to please wait patiently and we will get to as many questions as we can. Please do not interrupt. Thank you.
I also have a new book, as I said, that's coming out in a little over a year and a half. So yeah, I'm always working on something.
what's it called?
Hang on, please do not interrupt. Okay, just hold off and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. Alex Hansen.
Which book that you've written are you most proud of?
Oh, which book have I written that I'm the most proud of? That's a great question. I get asked a lot which one is my favorite, but my answer, and what I usually say with that is they're all my favorites. Just like, if I asked your parents who their favorite kid is, they would say all of them. But as far as which book I'm most proud of, it's probably one of my earlier books called The Dogs of Winter. I'm very proud of that book because it's set in Russia during a particular historical time in Russia. And I had to do a lot of research for that book. I didn't know anything about that time period, which is the mid 1990s. And I've never been to Russia. I still haven't. But apparently I did a good enough job that it was actually published in Russia a couple years after it came out. So I'm very proud of that book.
Is it nonfiction?
Okay, so let's go ahead. Oscar, your hand is up next. Oscar?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, you can hear me. I thought you
Yeah.
couldn't hear me for a second. So since I want to become a writer, I'm going to ask you this question. What is the first step to becoming a writer?
Well, the most important step to becoming a great writer is to be a great reader. I can't emphasize that enough. You need to read a lot and you need to read all different kinds of stories, not just the things that you typically read. I don't normally read graphic novels, but I've started reading them because what that does when you read different things is it shows you all the different ways a story can be told. As you know, in my book, Stay, it's told from two different perspectives. You know, we experience this story through Baby's eyes and through Piper's eyes. And so, you know, by reading that, it shows you that that's one way that you can tell a story. So being a great reader is probably the most important thing. And then after that, it's just paying attention to all the different story ideas that are out there. A lot of my ideas come from things that I've read, things that I've seen on TV. It may be something that I overhear in a restaurant in a conversation of things you're curious about. There's story ideas out there everywhere if you just pay attention.
Thank you. Mishika.
Was there a specific dog or like a specific dog that you met or like knew that influenced Baby's character?
So I think your question is there a particular dog that kind of inspired Baby in my book? You know, what Baby looked like in the book was very much inspired by one of the dogs that belonged to an older woman that lived in the park where I volunteered. That dog's name, if I remember correctly, was Spark. Looked like Toto in The Wizard of Oz. But the personality of Baby, that curiousness and that loyalty, and kind of the sense of humor that Baby had, were all, you know, inspired by all the dogs that I got to know when I was volunteering at that park. Yeah.
Thank you. Then Shika K.
My question is, like, what would be your advice for people who want to be authors?
Well, my best advice, like I said, for people who want to be authors is to read a lot, be a really great reader. But I think that in paying attention to all the things that are out there to get story ideas, but also, everybody has their own story to tell and their way of telling it. Don't try to copy any other author out there. You have a unique voice. You have a unique perspective on things. So don't try to imitate anybody else. And also enjoy creating. Enjoy the creative process. Don't worry so much about, oh, well, is this good enough to be published? Is it a good enough book? Just have fun with it. That's the big thing. I teach at a lot of conferences for adults who are trying to become published authors, and they're so serious about it. And I want to say, just have fun, try different things. I had never written a novel in verse like I did, with Baby's chapters. This is what we call verse, free verse. I loved reading books in free verse, but I'd never written that way. And I'd always wanted to try it. I didn't know if I could do it, but I just thought it would be fun. So have fun with it. That's probably, after being a great reader, that's my number two big piece of advice, is have fun with it.
Thank you. That's great advice. Is it Manasvi?
It's pronounced Manasvi.
Oh, thank you, Manasvi.
Yep. My first question is, how did you get the idea to incorporate poetry into your book, Stay?
Okay. So I love poetry. I've loved poetry ever since I was really young. And then, a number of years ago, books written all in what we call free verse poetry became very popular. The first one I can remember reading was Love That Dog by Sharon Creech. And I just thought it was such a brilliant way to tell a story. And after that, I started reading a lot of novels in verse. And I just wanted to try it. Like I said, I wasn't sure I could do it, but I just, when you've written quite a few books, you want to stretch yourself. You want to try new things. You don't want to necessarily do the same thing over and over. And so I decided I wanted to try writing in verse. Now, my book coming out in about a year and a half, Mermaids and Other Signs of Life, is the whole thing is written in verse.
That's so cool. My second question is, what struggles did you face while you were becoming an author?
Oh, what struggles did I face? The same one every author out there faces, and that's rejections. I don't know if you know this, but J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter books, her first Harry Potter book in the series was rejected by over 30 publishers. I mean, can you imagine how those publishers feel now after how hugely successful they are? So I went through a number of years of lots of rejections, sending my books out to publishers and getting a form letter back that said, if I was lucky, "Dear author, this book is not what we're looking for," period. And you're disappointed, but you get yourself up and you dust yourself off and you try to make the book better, and then you send it out again. And you do that over and over and over until you finally get that one yes. So that is something that every author out there has to deal with.
Thank you. Next up, Zoe Reynolds.
It's not really a question, but my favorite quote from your book is, I've never realized until it was gone how something as normal as hope can light up your whole world.
Oh my gosh, I know. Isn't that the truth? I mean, we take something like hope or friendship or, what we've experienced the last 2.5 years, just, being able to sit in a classroom. I mean, we take all those things for granted until they're gone. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So I think, I didn't write this book during the pandemic, obviously, but I think that's something that we have all been learning, including myself, during this last almost 3 years. But thank you for sharing that.
Next up, is it Pawasha Khan?
Yes. I was wondering, how long did it take you to write Stay?
So how long did it take me to write Stay? Well, to write the first draft of Stay, which is the whole book from beginning, middle, and end, took me probably about 4 months, which is pretty, for the most part, is pretty typical with my books to get that first draft down. I try not to edit as I go along. I just am trying to get the whole thing down on paper so that I have something, a structure, a skeleton, as you will, to work with. And then once I do that, I rewrite it several times and flesh it out to make it better and better before I ever send it off to my editor. So it takes quite a while. Yeah.
Thank you. Emmy T. Taguchi?
Why do you like the giraffe?
Why do I like giraffes? I just think they just look like something that would come out of Dr. Seuss's imagination. They've got those long necks, and then that kind of a small head, and the different colors and the little things on top of their head, and they're just so cool. They're just so cool and unlikely. And I think that's why I've always loved them so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Gabriela Rivera Salinas.
My name is Gabriela. Why a fire ranger hat do you need? Oops.
So Gabriella, did you have a question?
If I can hear you.
Yeah, we can't seem to hear you. Why don't you put your question in the chat, please? Okay. Is it Yasan?
Yes, you said my name correctly. My question is, what was your idea or how you figured out or like inspire you to name the book Stay?
Oh, thank you for asking that. One thing that happens with books is the author, like me, will come up with a title when we first start writing the book. And a lot of the times, once the publisher gets hold of it and marketing, they change the title. And they wanted to change the title of this book, but I really, really fought to keep it because for me, the title not only, I mean, you know, as you know, if you have a dog, that's a behavior that you teach the dog. It's a command, and you say stay, and like Jewel did to Baby in the park that night, and the dog will stay and wait for you. So it's kind of a symbol of faith and loyalty. But also to me, it also reflects Piper's desire to stay in one place and be rooted there, be a part of something, be a part of a community, not move around all the time, make friends and participate. So for me, it symbolized Baby's faithfulness and Piper's desire to be rooted to one place. And they finally understood my reason for it, and they let me keep it. Yay.
I know. Yay. That's good. We definitely are
One for
celebrating
Katie.
that. All right. Sully Lucas.
It didn't let me unmute for a second.
Okay. Do you have a question, Sully?
Whenever it doesn't see my face, it's squinchy. See?
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to focus on author questions right now. Okay. So we probably have time for one final question, and then our half an hour will be up. That went so fast. So is it Ridan Kumar?
Yeah. So I think A Pup Called Trouble is yours, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Pup Called Trouble is mine.
So how does it feel to have two books of yours going in like a very big achievement, like going in OBOB for 2 years? How does it feel to be like an important author and doubled?
Well, I'm glad to hear you think I'm an important author. A lot of times I feel like I'm mostly important to my dogs. But yeah, I mean, I love hearing from my readers, and I hear from people who have read A Pup Called Trouble and really enjoyed it and thought it was fun, but also learned quite a bit about coyotes and possums and crows. So that's if my books shed a light on things that are misunderstood, whether it be possums not being icky or people who are experiencing homelessness not being lazy, then I feel like I have the best job in the world.
Thank you so much. And that is a beautiful way to close our time together. So once again, thank you so much, Bobbie, for joining us today. And if anyone is interested in reading Stay, we have multiple copies that can be checked out from our school, and it is available on Sora as well, our ebook application. So you can go ahead and log in and read it on your own time. as well.
Thank you. And you can go to my website, bobbiepyron.com, and find out more about me and my other books. And you can also, through my website, you can email me. So that would be great.
Oh, thank you. And Bobbie, would it be okay if just for one moment I sent you into a breakout room to meet with one teacher who had a quick question for you, if that's okay?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I am going to just go ahead and try to put the teachers in a breakout room with you really quickly. And then students, thank you so, so much for your time. I'm going to go ahead, students, and I'm going to ask you to please go ahead and you can sign out, and I look forward to seeing you at our next event. I really appreciate your time and your thoughtful questions today. And please go ahead and have a wonderful Friday enjoying the Oregon sunshine. Bye, students. And if you're a teacher, hang on just a second. I'm working to assign that breakout room. Thank you so much.